Hi everybody, it's Danny with Ukulele Projects, and I have another really fun project to share with you. As you can see, it's another Favilla Teardrop. This is the one I've been looking for a very long time, because what you see here is the Solid Mahogany model. This was the top of the line of the teardrops. And from what I have gathered, there are probably about 3 tiers of teardrop that Favilla made, at least 3 that I know of. There were the painted models, like my black Favilla teardrop, and then there were the natural birch models, and then there were solid birch, and then there is the mahogany model. And these are really hard to find, and probably the holy grail of Favilla teardrop collecting would be finding a solid mahogany model in vintage condition. This one wasn't in vintage condition, and therefore I was able to get it in an auction. Now, the painted models are essentially, they're like a laminate, and then you got the solid birch, and then you have this. The reason I was able to get this is because I have a feeling a lot of people bidding on it were thinking it was actually a birch model. It was so dirty, it was really hard to see the mahogany grain. And I think that caused a lot of people to not want to bid on it. And I was fine with that because that way I could win the auction. This had a lot of problems when I got it, even though the seller said, oh, it's fine, it's just, it's really hot here in Southern California. I turned the air conditioning off, so I don't get any sound on the video. The seller said that it was in really good condition, but I could tell already that there were cracks. There was a crack here, there was a crack that went underneath the bridge, and then there was a impact crack in the back. As I said, it was extremely dirty. And so, there was also a crack up here, and after from shrinking it had pulled apart this like celluloid, trim, and the rosette had pulled apart where the mahogany is, and so there was a big gap, and some of whatever they'd used to create the black had come out also, so it wasn't just a simple, push it back up in place. And so the way I fixed this was what I normally do, and the first thing I did was I took about a month or so to slowly rehydrate it to see what would close up, what wouldn't close up. And I was able to get most of the cracks to close. These were substantial enough where I actually had to cleat them. Sometimes I won't if they go together really well, but this was the cracks in this, in the back down here. This was an impact crack that needed to be stabilized, so I needed to cleat back here. I needed to put a cleat in here. I believe I have photos of that. The bridge had to be reset. I needed to remove the bridge just to fix the one crack. And this bridge presented challenge because I don't know if the camera can pick that up like that, but I do have photos of it. It's really neat. It's not like the one-piece bridge setup that the painted models have. This has a little saddle on it, but the bridge itself is like a dome. I mean, not a dome in that sense, but front to back it's curved, which created a little bit of a challenge because the saddle's glued in. I didn't want to remove the saddle, so I had to create a setup where I could get pressure on the center of the bridge so that the forces would be displaced evenly when it was clamped, so that I'd get a nice, a nice bond. And what I ended up doing, I couldn't make a call like I've done with other things that would go over the saddle because it's so toward the front and there's really nothing in front of the bridge. You'll see this in the photo. So what I ended up doing was cutting a little piece of wood that to use as a shim behind the saddle that was just a little taller than the saddle, that would enable the clamp to grab right on the center of the bridge and pull down. Well, 2 clamps in this case. And that worked really well. Something else I'm going to mention, and if there are any Favilla teardrop owners out there that watch this, you might want to check yourselves. I had to reset the saddle. It was actually 2 millimeters too far forward. And actually, was it too far forward? No, it was too far back. 2 millimeters too far back. And I've mentioned in other videos that you can go a little fore and aft of, twice the distance from the 12th fret and still have intonation okay. For instance, my Islander by Canilea, that is actually set about 2 millimeters back. However, that's a tenor, it's a 17-inch scale, 2 millimeters on a little, I think it was like 13.5-inch scale. I'll put a subtitle up if I remember wrong. But 2 millimeters for the shorter scale, that's a bit much. And so I set it in the proper position. This is something that I'm coming to believe is probably an issue that Favilla had on a regular basis, because my black Favilla Teardrop, it was almost as bad as the Fender that I fixed and gave away. It was over 2 millimeters back, and it was also down to the side. And so that's one of the reasons, if you remember that video, that's one of the reasons why I ended up choosing to redo the black, because of the fact that the bridge was just so far in the wrong position. And if I put it back in that original position, it would have played okay for these first couple frets, but it would have been just okay. And if you want to play up the fretboard at all, it wouldn't have sounded good. It was never an issue for the original owner, I could tell, because the frets were worn out right here and nowhere else. So anyway, here is, once again, the Favilla Teardrop. Another thing I mentioned about this versus the others is that this is extremely light, and the bracing on the inside is much more delicate than in the other teardrop models. It has a really nice sound. It's really loud. I'll try playing Sonoe on it. I just blew it. This, the one thing that is a challenge for me with this is the fret markers are absolutely tiny. They're like really, really tiny. The birch models and the natural birch and the painted models have very large fret markers. And for me, fret markers come in really handy, because when I'm holding something this close, I'm actually seeing two fretboards when I don't have my glasses on. And so the fret markers are really handy for situations like that. Here, I'll try a little bit of Roxy's Waltz. Really fun instrument. After I got the repairs done, then I had to address the the dirtiness and the finish, and I cleaned it. I basically use, like, I never get the name right. It's basically that Roncinol lighter fluid. It's something that doesn't hurt finishes. You can actually wipe something with that, wipe an instrument with that. You can use mineral spirits if you can get actual mineral spirits. California, you can't buy paint thinner that's mineral spirits anymore. You actually have to go to an art supply store and buy mineral spirits that's used. You find it in the oil-based artist paint section. It's used for a thinner for that and for cleaning. But it's easier to get the lighter fluid, and very, very carefully go over it, and that way it doesn't hurt the finish that is there. I did, when I fixed this back here, I did go through some of the finish, and there's a spot where the wood got a little bit redder. I didn't mind that because the repair I had to do on it actually is part of the history of this instrument now. Yet I wanted to preserve the finish that was there. So once I had it all completely cleaned, then I top coated that, I sprayed it, and then once it was sprayed, oh actually take that back, before I sprayed it, I went over it with a very, very thin stain to use like a little slip glaze to just to even it out. And what the stain did, it was is a transparent stain, yet it was designed, the stain that I used was to enhance the faded sort of golden yellow look of this instrument, because that's how it's aged. If I were to sand this, strip it and sand this, this would be like a deep red mahogany instrument again. But that's not what I was going for. I wanted to keep as much of the old look as possible. And the other thing that stain did was it actually highlighted, it gave life to the gold. As that golden stain went over the label, it really made the paint pop again. And then once it was clear coated and the label was protected and the finish was protected, then I did what I normally do, and that's very carefully hand rub it so it doesn't look like it was sprayed. It looks like it's very old and very loved, and has been very loved for a very long time. One other small thing I forgot to mention, you'll notice this has a fretboard. The painted Favilla Teardrops and the solid birch Favilla Teardrops, the ones that were done natural, they had integrated fretboards. So that was one other small difference with this instrument. Anyway, it's a wonderful little instrument. It is loud for its size. It really is a loud instrument. It rivals the ukulele in terms of volume. I saw a video where someone was saying it was louder than their Koaloa KTM 00 tenor. Well, since I have a Koaloa KTM 00 tenor, I was playing both, and actually it is louder. Does it mean it sounds better? No. It's a little soprano, but it is louder. And but loudness isn't everything in an instrument. However, it is something that you can work with. It creates the ability to have a lot of dynamic range in what you're playing. And the only other thing I'll say about this is it gets about as bright as you can get without getting brittle. It just really treads that line when playing pieces. It's fun. It's really fun. I'm going to do another video that will come up. It won't be my next video, because my next video is going to be a surprise video, and it's going to be, I don't know if it'll be before this one or after this one, since I'm filming them both the same night. But I have a feeling I'll be posting this video, and the next video will be like within a few days after, and it's you'll want to watch that video. But very soon I'll be doing a comparison between this and my black Favilla Teardrop. That way you can hear the difference between the two back to back. I haven't seen a video where anyone's done something like that, so I'm going to put that together. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you in the next video.